There's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did, and he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that. Look, we've been treated very unfairly by Canada. We've been treated very unfairly by Mexico. But we've been treated very unfairly by every country all over the world. The European Union is horrible, horrible. And we're going to get it back. And I have a choice. I could just coast, and eventually there'd be a blow-up down the road, maybe a long way. But we owe $36 trillion, and we're going to get it back.
Now, these tariffs are stacked, meaning you've got 25% beginning today on aluminum and steel, but additional 25% is coming on April 2nd with reciprocal tariffs. So Trump is keeping his promises in terms of where tariffs are going. Here's what he said in my interview this week. Watch.
But, you know, the tariffs could go up as time goes by, and they may go up. And, you know, I don't know if it's predictability. This country has been ripped off from every nation in the world, every company outside in the world. We've been ripped off at levels never seen before, and all we're going to do is get it back.
So President Trump is digging in. Your thoughts? I mean, look, his ultimate goal is to get companies to build it here. And so I think he's going to move the needle on this. I really do. Caroline, your thoughts?
Yeah, Maria, I mean, I'd like to think there's a method to the madness of this red light, green light game of tariffs. My old colleague at National Review, Kevin Hassett, said that if we can tolerate some short-term pain for some long-term gain, we're going to get a boom in the second quarter under Trump, and that a lot of the sluggishness we're seeing right now is left over. It's a hangover from Biden. But I just don't want Trump to squander his political honeymoon. So he needs to be very clear about communicating to the public why tariffs and why Canada. Mexico and China, that makes sense because they're big culprits with the fentanyl crisis. Canada is a little bit harder to convince the American people of. And I agree that we don't want to be taken advantage of anymore with trade, but market volatility doesn't just hurt globalists. 62% of Americans own stocks.
Well, I mean, look, the president said there will be disruption, and that's what we're feeling right now. We're feeling some disruption. But at the end of the day, he thinks America is going to be better off when you've got more manufacturing in the U.S. So, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And a lot of what Donald Trump is doing is just resetting the playing field. And his position is inherently reasonable, which is we'll tariff you at the level you tariff us. So that totally makes sense. And with Canada, you know, I was watching last night, Kevin O'Leary was on talking about how if Canada and the United States are sort of partnered up, how strong economically both sides will benefit. And I know Donald Trump sees that as well. And with new leadership in Canada, I think there's great opportunity there. But I think Caroline is exactly right. The political capital needs to be maintained because the most important thing I think this year is getting these tax cuts done because everything flows from that.
Yeah, that's right. And that's also going to play into the uncertainty as there are questions about getting his agenda passed. Yes. There are also questions about tariffs. How do you see it as an investor, Adam?
As an investor, I hate the tariffs because they're wreaking havoc with my stocks, whom I view as my children. And as do my investors, by the way. Yeah. And they have been very badly behaved. But as a thinker, as an American, I actually like what Mr. Trump is doing because he is forcing conversations that wouldn't happen otherwise. But I do think, Caroline, to your point about trying to help people understand why he's doing them, he needs to constantly give us examples. So, as an example, when an American car goes to Europe, it pays a 10% tariff. When a European car comes to the U.S. and only pays a 2.5%. So they're charging us 4 times more than we're charging them. That's an example. When we try to sell milk as Americans across the border in Canada, 250% tariff because the Canadians are protecting their dairy industry. So I think Trump has to constantly give us examples so that we understand, oh, that's why he's doing this. He's trying to level the playing field. And I'm not sure that messaging has been as good as it could be.
Yeah, and you know he heard a lot of this yesterday at the roundtable. table.
Yeah.
CEOs need clarity. They need predictability. I'm sure that that's what they said to him, which is what I asked him in my interview, which sort of set things off earlier this week. Because, look, he's watching to see their response in order to give some clarity, in order to give predictability. But we know that these aluminum and steel tariffs are going to be 50% in no time.
Yeah, yeah, they are. And he's going to just keep ratcheting up the heat, but that's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
Ratchet it to the point where they buckle and say, okay, fine, what do you need?
That's exactly right. All right, we're going to slip in a short break. We're just getting started this morning.